What if that sudden urge you had to just abandon your passion project wasn't actually your own thought? Like, what if it was a parasite, feeding on your frustration?
Right, or think about that flash of pure irrational anger when someone cuts you off in traffic.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
Right. But what if that wasn't just a mood swing, but an invisible entity intentionally hijacking your emotional bandwidth? Basically because it needs to eat.
It's an incredibly unsettling way to look at your own mind. I mean, we
Yeah.
all prefer to think we are in complete control of our inner lives.
Oh, absolutely. But the sources we are looking at today suggest that human consciousness is actually, well, it's a highly contested battleground.
Yeah, exactly. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a wild, multi-layered Phygital, meaning physical and digital art anthology.
Hmm.
It's called The Subtle Seven, Reimagined Journeys of Destiny and Self. And it's created by an artist known as SurR.Ai. And the stack of sources we have on the desk for this one, I mean, it's dense.
It really is.
We are talking academic-style analyses of late Soviet occultism, deep historical research into Russian futurism, and structural comparisons to Bitcoin's cryptographic architecture.
It is a massive synthesis. I mean,
Yeah.
we are looking at how an artist in 2026 took profound, decades-old spiritual concepts and literally fused them with modern blockchain technology to create something, well, entirely new.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is to decode how this project seamlessly brings together Soviet-era psychology, complex time mathematics, and cryptography into an active machine.
Yeah, an active machine.
A machine that is quite literally designed to protect the human soul. I am intensely curious about this collision of spirituality and high tech, but, to understand the machine, we first have to understand the threat it was built to fight.
Precisely. And for that, we need to go back to 1990 to a Russian mathematician, psychologist, and astrologer named Alexander Kamensky.
Right.
He wrote under the pen name of VELIMIR Podvodny, and he wrote a classic text called The Return to Cultism. This is where he introduces the concept of the subtle seven.
And these are the parasites I was talking about.
Yes. According to Podvodny, these are invisible entities that latch on to human mental and emotional energy fields from the moment we're born.
Wow.
But they don't attack you with brute force. They don't overpower you. They operate through subtle distortion.
Hence the name.
Exactly. They quietly manipulate your impulses. They inflate your ego. They trigger your deepest fears. And they do this to redirect your actions away from your authentic path.
So they're, like, farming us.
In a way, yes. They feed on human energy, specifically the energy generated by our internal friction and, emotional distress.
So it sounds almost digital to me, like these entities are psychological malware just running in the background and eating up your CPU, which would make the defense system he created.
The antivirus software.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Podvodny created what he called the Bill of Rights and Actual Possibilities. It's a framework of 7 fundamental spiritual rights designed to combat these 7 specific entities. And he mapped them geographically onto the human body, from the top of the head, the crown, or Sahasrara chakra, all the way down to the root.
Let's actually walk through what these pieces of malware look like, because I guarantee you listening at home are going to recognize some of these in your own life.
Oh, for sure.
Starting at the very top of the head, the crown, we have the dragon.
Right, so the dragon represents spiritual pride. Its goal is to substitute your higher self with your lower ego, effectively severing your connection to anything divine or larger than yourself.
It wants you to think you are the absolute center of the universe.
Exactly. And the defense against it, your first right, is the right to stand before God and be accountable for one's life. It basically demands humility.
Okay. Then moving down to the third eye, you meet the pig, which is just pure egoism and narrow vision, right?
Yeah, it restricts your perspective so entirely that you can only see your own immediate appetites.
And the antidote is the second right, which is the right to see the world through the eyes of the higher self. But then we get to the throat, and we meet a figure called the Hurrier, or Toropiska.
The Hurrier is fascinating because it destroys completion. It forbids any idea from actually crystallizing into reality.
So annoying.
It creates this cult of faster,
Yeah.
convincing you that you must constantly move on to the next thing so you never actually finish anything meaningful.
Wait, so the Hurrier is basically the reason I have like 5 half-finished DIY projects sitting in my garage right now.
Probably.
Because every time I get close to finishing, I suddenly get an incredible urge to start something completely different.
That is exactly how Podvodny would describe it. The Hurrier feeds on the anxiety of the unfinished. And you combat this with the third right, the right to successfully complete one's endeavors.
Okay, well, moving down to the heart, things get a bit more sinister with the yellow man. This entity deals in deception and self-deception. It substitutes flattery for actual love.
Yeah, and to fight it, you claim the fourth right, the right to honestly confront oneself and endure the true opinions of the external world.
Then at the solar plexus, you have the black man. This is pure aggression, overt and covert. It just wants conflict.
And the defense there is the fifth right, the right to protect oneself and one's surroundings from internal and external adversaries.
Okay, two more. Moving down to the sacral chakra, we find the gray man.
Right, and if you've ever felt stuck in a loop of doubt, depression, or despair, that feeling that there is simply no happiness in life and never will be, that is the gray man feeding on your lethargy.
Wow. And the antidote?
It's the sixth right, the right to live at one's level without repeatedly descending into deep pits, and if it happens, to rise again with divine assistance.
And finally, at the root chakra, the absolute foundation of survival is the serpent. And, this isn't the classic serpent of wisdom.
No, not at all. This entity causes a spasm of your very will to exist. It brings bodily confusion and a total loss of grounding.
And the defense against it is the simplest, most fundamental right of all, the absolute right to live.
Right. When you look at them all together, you realize Podvodny wasn't just listing moral failings to be confessed to a priest.
Right.
He was identifying parasitic mechanisms to be observed, understood, and ultimately starved.
But the historical context here is huge, right? Like, why was a Russian mathematician categorizing psychological malware in 1990 using the exact phrase Bill of Rights?
Well, because in 1989 and 1990, the Soviet Union was collapsing. For 70 years, esoteric and spiritual traditions had been strictly outlawed.
Wow, yeah.
They survived entirely underground, circulating as samizdat, which were illegally self-published, hand-copied manuscripts passed secretly between friends. Suddenly, the state collapses, and this suppressed knowledge bursts into legal print.
And Russia was in the middle of drafting a brand new post-Soviet constitutional order, so the language of rights carried enormous political weight.
What's fascinating here is how Podvodny deliberately chose to frame spiritual development. By calling it a Bill of Rights, it was a juridical provocation.
Oh, I see.
He was saying that protecting your mind from these entities isn't some mystical chore. It is an inalienable right. He was basically writing a constitutional framework for the human soul.
And the underground sources he pulled from to build this framework are just incredible. I mean, he drew heavily from Daniel Andreev's epic text, Rose of the World,
Yes.
which Andreev literally wrote in secret while imprisoned in a Soviet gulag in the 1950s. And he introduced the idea of egregores, which are collective thought entities that take on a life of their own.
Right. Podvodny also integrated the teachings of G.I. Gurdjieff, specifically the doctrine of the many eyes. This is the psychological insight that you are not one permanent self, you are a swarm of contradictory voices.
Which makes so much sense when you think about it.
Think about how you might wake up feeling intensely motivated to change your life, but by 2:00 p.m. a completely different I takes over and just wants to eat junk food and watch television. Yeah, been there.
Every passing desire says I, pretending to speak for your entire being.
So he blended all of that Soviet underground thought with the Christian 7 deadly sins, the Buddhist kleshas, which are mental hindrances, and the Hindu chakra system. It's a staggering synthesis, bridging the esoteric, hidden inner work with an exoteric public declaration of rights.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
Okay, but I have to push back here. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone experiencing this art project. We have this incredibly dense 1990s esoteric map of the self, drawn from Soviet prison literature and ancient mysticism.
Yeah.
How on earth does an AI artist in 2026 turn this into poetry and digital art? It sounds way too academic. Where's the flow? Where's the creativity?
Well, that rigidity is the point. SurR.Ai wasn't interested in free-flowing, unanchored emotion. To turn this psychology into an active system, they needed an unshakable structure.
Okay.
So they brought in the framework of a Russian futurist who believed that destiny itself was a literal mathematical equation. This is where we meet Velimir Khhlebnikov. He was a foundational Russian futurist poet from the early 20th century, and he actually referred to himself as the king of time.
Quite a title.
Seriously. He completely abandoned normal poetic structure because he believed that time, human history, and even artistic inspiration were not random. They were entirely regulated by immutable mathematics.
Yes. Khhlebnikov wrote a masterwork called Tables of Fate. He argued that historical events, collisions, and personal transformations oscillate on waves generated by the exponential bases of 2 and 3.
Okay, stick with me here.
In his system, base 3, which is 3 to the power of n governs disruptions, collisions, and reversals. Base 2 to the power of n governs harmonious growth and spatial progressions.
Okay, my head is spinning a little. Let me make sure I understand this. He believed you could calculate destiny. How? Like, give me the math.
SurR.Ai takes Khlebnikov's exact mathematical philosophy to structure the release and cadence of this anthology. The artist uses Khlebnikov's core formula for calculating the planetary transformation of an idea into a completed reality.
All right, what is it?
The equation is this: 3 to the 5th power, plus 3 to the 4th, plus 3 to the 3rd, plus 3 squared, plus 3 to the 1st, plus 3 to the 0, plus 1.
Wait, let me actually write that down and do the math. Okay, 3 to the 5th is 243.
Right.
3 to the 4th is 81. Then 27. Then 9. Then 3 plus 1. Plus 1. Okay, 243 plus 81 plus 27 plus 9 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1. That equals exactly 365.
Exactly 365 days. A precise terrestrial orbit around the sun. Khlebnikov saw this formula as the literal mathematical bridge connecting internal realization, which he likened to the Earth rotating on its own axis, with external reality, the Earth rotating around the sun.
Wow. So how does this actually translate into the art?
Well, instead of just writing a poem based on a feeling, SurR.Ai algorithmically spaces out the stanzas and the visual beats of the project according to these exact numerical intervals.
Oh, I see.
First, 243 days pass, a massive gap of silence, then 81 days, then 27. The revelations come faster and faster, compressing time as the psychological year closes, forcing the person experiencing the art to move through this exact scheduled cycle of self-realization.
Wow. Okay, so if the subtle 7 are the malware, Khlebnikov's math is the operating system's exact scheduled cadence. It's a calculated 365-day psychological year of self-realization.
Yes.
But the artist realized something crucial here. Psychological malware is incredibly resilient. Like, a scheduled poem isn't enough to kill it because human memory is deeply flawed.
Precisely. We forget our revelations.
Yeah.
You might have a massive breakthrough about how the hurrier is ruining your projects, but 2 weeks later, your memory distorts, the entity feeds on your distraction, and you fall back into the exact same trap.
Which means to lock these subtle entities inside an unalterable system where your own brain can't lie to you later, you need a cryptographic vault. And that brings us to the most modern piece of this entire machine: Satoshi Nakamoto and the 2008 Bitcoin white paper. SurR.Ai chose to host this entire anthology on the blockchain.
And we need to be very clear about the why here. They didn't do this just to sell digital art. Esoterically, Nakamoto's proof-of-work protocol, or POW, mirrors a profound spiritual concept: the idea of deliberate, conscious effort overcoming systemic inertia.
Let's explain that for anyone who isn't deep into crypto. How does an energy-intensive computer network mirror spiritual effort?
Well, in a proof-of-work network, computers must expend raw, verifiable electrical energy to solve complex puzzles and validate a block of data.
Right.
Once that data is added to the chain, you cannot rewrite history without redoing all the computational work that went into that block, plus every block added after it. It is an immutable ledger of expended energy.
And the sources outline 2 key mechanisms from the white paper that apply here. First, the longest chain rule, where the network accepts the longest valid chain of proof of work as the absolute and historical truth. Second, the attack threshold. The math proves that an attacker who controls even 10% of the network's power only has a 0.00001% chance of altering the ledger after 10 confirmations. It basically becomes statistically impossible to change the past.
Now, apply that cryptographic immutability to human psychology.
Okay.
The visual component of this anthology features what SurR.Ai calls video glitch art, NFTs.
Yeah.
Now, an NFT is just a unique digital receipt proving ownership of a specific asset on the blockchain. But in this system, the glitch you see in the video is not a random aesthetic choice.
What is it then?
A glitch represents the exact calculated moment the subtle entity attacks and disrupts human consciousness. It is the visual representation of the pig narrowing your vision, or the gray man inducing a sudden wave of despair.
Oh, wow. So by freezing that specific digital glitch, SurR.Ai wraps it in a cryptographic hash. And a hash is basically a one-way mathematical meat grinder. You put data in, you get a unique string of numbers out. If you change even 1 pixel of that image later, the hash completely breaks.
Exactly. They laminate that moment of psychological interference and permanently inscribe it on the blockchain. By doing this, they neutralize the parasite.
That is so cool.
The manipulative entity relies entirely on shifting narratives, self-deception, and your fading memory to survive. But suddenly, it is captured in an unyielding consensus machine.
Think about your own life for a second. How often do you let an impulse distract you, a sudden flash of anger, and then a week later you completely forget it even happened? You just absorb the damage.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
What if you could hit save on that disruption so it could never manipulate you again? What if you had an immutable receipt of your own psychological breakthrough, a receipt that your own flawed memory could never alter? You're taking the malware out of your head and locking it in a public vault.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the blockchain isn't being used here just to sell digital art. It is being used as a literal, permanent spiritual shield against entities that rely on the shifting distortions of human memory.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because when you zoom out and look at all these pieces together, the esoteric psychology, the futurist poetry math, the cryptographic ledger, the sheer numerical symmetry of the machine SurR.Ai build is staggering.
It really is.
Let's break down the final calculation of the completed anthology.
The structure operates on multiple interlocking levels. We start with the 7 spiritual rights multiplying against the 7 subtle parasitic forces. That gives us 49 interpretive tensions.
Okay, got it.
But remember the dual lenses we discussed earlier with Podvodny.
Right.
Each of these 49 tensions can be read through an esoteric inner lens and an exoteric public lens. So 49 multiplied by 2 gives us exactly 98 possible readings within the system.
Then look at the media count itself. The anthology features 7 algorithmic poems and 18 on-chain collectibles. Those 18 collectibles are perfectly balanced, 9 still images and 9 videos. A 9x9 balance of stillness and motion, and numerically 18 is 2 times 3 squared, which perfectly links right back to Khlebnikov's base 2 and base 3 temporal equations that we calculated earlier.
And the precision extends even into the duration of the media. There are 9 video NFTs, and each video is precisely 4 seconds long. 9 times 4 gives us 36 seconds of total video material.
Wow!
And 36 is 6 squared, adding yet another layer of latent mathematical symmetry to the entire architecture.
It is almost overwhelming when you lay it all out like that. Every single syllable, frame, and second is mathematically engineered to trap these entities.
This raises an important question about how we consume digital media today. We live in an era of infinite, cheap, meaningless digital generation. We scroll past thousands of images a day without a second thought.
Oh, absolutely.
This project proposes that the future of meaningful art depends entirely on profound, structured systems of intention.
So what does this all mean? It means this isn't just a gallery exhibit you passively stare at. It's an active machine you step into. You are using the permanent architecture of the blockchain to secure absolute sovereignty over your own mind. You are using poetry and cryptography to evict the subtle parasites that have been quietly feeding on your life.
It is a complete paradigm shift from passive consumption to active, calculated self-liberation.
We have covered an absolute massive journey today. We started deep in the underground of Soviet occultism with a VELIMIR Podvodny mapping out our inner demons.
Yeah.
We calculated the exact math of human destiny using a Russian futurist's 365-day poetic calendar. And we anchored the whole thing in Satoshi Nakamoto's proof-of-work protocol, showing how Bitcoin's architecture can be repurposed into a spiritual shield to protect human consciousness, all beautifully synthesized by SurR.Ai.
It is a remarkable convergence of disciplines. But as we wrap up, it leaves us with a critical forward-looking question to ponder something the sources hint at but leave open.
What's that?
We've established that these parasitic entities, the subtle 7, feed on our chaotic, distorted human attention. And we've seen how the blockchain serves as an immutable record to lock them out. But what happens when artificial intelligence systems become advanced enough to write their own permanent ledgers? Will AI inherit our subtle 7 parasites? Will it absorb our spiritual pride, our aggression, our deception? Or will it manifest an entirely new set of subtle entities, completely alien glitches born in the machine itself?
That is a brilliant and honestly chilling thought to leave off on. If we build the perfect X-ray machine for the soul, we might just discover that the machine itself has ghosts. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll see you next time.